I show at 6 o'clock, Mayor.
Okay. We'll call the meeting to order. This is a work session of Bella Vista City Council, April 20, 2026. First order is review of the minutes from March 23, 2026. Anybody see anything they want to comment on?
Roll call? Do a roll call?
No, not for the work session. Okay. Now, I wanted to go out of order a little bit. We were going to do items K and L first because there's so many things on the agenda. Item K is resolution approving the mayor's reappointment of Elizabeth Duncan to the Tree Advisory Board, position 5, for a 3-year term ending May 1, 2029. And I believe her background is in your packet. Is Elizabeth here? I thought you might be. So, just so you could see who she is. Item L is a resolution approving the mayor's appointment of Benjamin Sassine to the Tree Advisory Board, position 4, for a 3-year term ending May 1, 2029. And Benjamin, I think you might be here also. So his resume is in the back also. So looks like they're both eminently qualified. It's always impressive to me what good backgrounds we get for people and relevant backgrounds for a lot of these voluntary board positions. We're very fortunate that way. So the next item is an ordinance prohibiting camping and vehicle habitation on certain public property, providing definitions, establishing enforcement procedures, providing exemptions, providing penalties, and for other purposes. And this is on second reading. Travis, did you want to say anything about it?
I don't think I have anything else to add, Mayor, that we haven't already addressed last time, unless any of the other council members have something they want to bring up or questions they would like to ask. I don't have any additional comments.
Okay. Any questions about it? Okay. Next one is an ordinance amending ordinance number 2025-16, establishing a business license to exempt short-term rental management businesses from the licensing requirement and for other purposes. This is on second reading also. Did you have anything you wanted to add on that, Travis? Or?
I have a question.
Craig?
I guess I'm having trouble trying to articulate why. I don't know what the benefit is. And if Travis could explain just in loose terms, what does this exempt or do or help? I don't understand.
Yeah, so there was confusion on applicants and or city personnel, and they were told that they may be required to get a business license whenever they should have been exempt. And so I thought this would just help clear that up a little bit.
I mean, exempt in what way? I don't understand. A business, I guess, I may need Taylor to, because that was, when we went through the first iteration of this, it was a bunch of, Taylor said this and this happened, and I have no idea what the deal is, so.
Yeah, and she's here, and she could probably answer questions if she would like,
Yeah,
that you
she
have
doesn't
for her.
mind.
But there was confusion about who needs one and who doesn't. And I don't know if any of that's been cleared up or not. But it's my understanding that ordinance exempt a home-based business.
So what, are we trying to establish what makes a home-based business or what?
No, this ordinance would not be able to do that. That's in the zoning code. I believe, actually, I don't want to speak on the intent of this. I think the background is more where I'm going to speak about. I think in terms of maybe the staff confusion that was noted, there is no confusion with staff. The same delivery is still being delivered today. If you are a business that may not operate under all 10 requirements of the zoning code as a home occupation, we have 10 requirements and then some additional items as well that you have to meet in order to be a home occupation. And that applies across the board. So if you have a business within a home in Bella Vista and you meet the 10 requirements within our zoning code, you are a home-based business, and thus per this ordinance, you do not need a business license. However, if you do not, again, it's all may, that's why we use terms like may, because it's circumstantial. We don't know exactly every single instance of each business, especially when they reach out to staff and just say, do I need a business license blanket for this? We'll typically say, if you meet the 10 requirements here, you don't need it, but we're not attorneys. No one in my department's an attorney, so that's why we use the term may. If they have more questions on it, we'll typically, if they push staff a little bit more, we'll typically offer them, you may need to seek private counsel on your own attorney advice on what you would need. But yes, there is an email that I'm assuming is what you're referencing, where say you may need a business license if they don't meet those 10 requirements of a home occupation.
Yeah,
So.
I would argue that we shouldn't make a code that's so complicated that we have to tell folks, in order to understand this, you need to get legal counsel. That's my opinion.
But, okay.
I think what he was trying to do is we already had people exempt who had a short-term rental. And the reason we did is because they'd already signed up and paid a fee. We thought, well, we shouldn't make them sign up, pay another fee. And what he was trying to do here is try and get people who manage short-term rentals to be exempt also. That was my interpretation of what
Yes.
you're going for.
But what's so how does managing short-term rentals change the landscape of?
Yeah.
Because I just.
Well, so that's a good question. It's because whenever they proposed this business license to us, they said from Taylor's department, the intent was to ensure that the property is zoned appropriately for them to occupy the business. And from the fire department side, it was in case they leave that business, they know for pre-plans and emergencies. But if you're a home-based business, then neither of those are applicable. So I feel like they shouldn't have to have a business license, because the two reasons that the two different departments wanted it doesn't apply to them.
Okay.
Well, while we're on the subject, I was going to refer to G in new business, because that was an ordinance proposed by Wendy that's on the same subject. So I'll read it real quick. Amending ordinance number 2025-16, establishing a business license to repeal subsection 4F to make clear that lawful home-based businesses, including home-based property management business and home-based short-term rental management businesses, are exempt from the business license requirement, while still providing that such businesses conducted outside the home are not exempt and for other purposes. So Wendy, do you want to?
That sounds really complicated. I promise you, it's not. I think when Mr. Williams made his original amendment back in the fall, when we were going over this, that line with the exemptions regarding probably may cause some unintended confusion. So this basically says we're going to strike what Larry had put in regarding that, and just saying if you are a legally conforming home-based business, which follows the 10 requirements, you don't need a business license. If you are not, you do. And so if I know somebody who has a property management company. They are a home-based business. They work from the right percentage from their home. They do not go and clean the homes. They don't do maintenance on the homes. They don't leave their home to do their business. They are scheduling the cleaners, the maintenance, the gardeners, all that work from their home, and are truly a home-based business. It's kind of like if you're a cleaning company and you're not doing your business inside your home because all your work is done outside of the home. So if you are a legally conforming home-based business, you do not need a license. If you are not, then you do, regardless of what it is.
So in essence, we have two ordinances that are doing the same thing.
No.
No, she's trying to amend the ordinance in a different way by just eliminating
So,
4F altogether.
If your friend leaves her house to go meet with a potential client, does she meet the requirements for a home-based business, or would she be required to have a business license? That's my first question. My second question is, what is the purpose of having a business license for a home-based business if they leave their house? Like, what is the city's objective in having them apply for a business license?
We don't have home-based businesses apply for business license. There is no business license in Grand Rapids.
If they're operating fully within their home by phone, email, fax, if that still exists, in a room that is 25% or less of their GFA, amongst other requirements, then they do not need a business license.
Okay, so if that example where Councilmember Hughes said her friend owns a property management company, does it all from her house, if she leaves her house to meet with a potential client, does she still meet the requirements of a home-based business?
It would depend if they're conducting business for money for someone else outside of the home.
Yes, she's meeting a potential client.
Then we would probably say you need to check, you may need a business license, you should
With
seek
her legal
counsel.
And I think she has, and I think she's clear, like she's done her work.
So in order for someone in that position to know if they need it or not, they have to hire an attorney?
If they're questioning it, I cannot give people legal advice.
Okay.
I cannot give legal advice, and yeah.
And then I think we also had a conversation regarding like, hey, for example, my mother-in-law is moving to town. She's an alteration specialist, and she's the kind of person where it'd be home-based, where she would beg for a business license for legitimacy. She'd want to be like, hey, I'll pay the $25 to be legitimate. And we had a conversation and said, hey, we don't want to take money from people who don't actually need it, like where it doesn't fall. So I think your department's doing a great job on saying, hey, no, you do not need one. We don't want to make a permit if it's not needed, so.
Shay?
First, hey, Wanda, this is crinkling a lot. Is that okay? Or I just don't want your recording to not work for you. It just does that. Okay, just checking. Yeah, okay, great. Okay, great. And then second, Craig, I think what would help maybe jog your memory, it helped me a little bit, was that when we were visiting this in the fall, Councilmember Wilms proposed an amendment that then started specifically discussing property management companies. We as a council accepted that amendment, and then it went in. And so I think historically that's why property management companies started becoming singled out and might have led to a lot of confusion. So then we've had Travis's proposal, and then we have Wendy's, which is simply cancel out what Mr. Wilms had brought initially. So that's kind of the brief history, if that's helped jogs anyone's memory.
I don't remember that far back, sorry. But I remember going through it, but yeah.
Larry?
I guess to help clarify the amendment that I made, what the intent was that the code read, as I interpreted it at least, is that if you did short-term rentals, you didn't require a business license. But the reality is that it may be as a subject operation with other real estate renting or leasing or management. And so if they did both of those, the way the code was written, it would exempt the real estate side of it as well. So that was the intent, is what, if they did real estate and they did short-term, it didn't exempt them as the code had read. And so it would require a license if they fit the criteria to require a license. Now, that's in concert with the home-based business, because if they don't need a license for a home-based business doing one or both of those, then they don't need a business license, and that's what you've said. Is that correct? You've said if they meet the 10 parameters,
If they
they're
meet the
not
10
required.
requirements,
Can I,
they don't need a business license.
I don't want to bring more confusion to it, but I do remember how we ended up here. And so if it's helpful, I'll add it. If it's not helpful, I don't want to bring unneeded discussion to this. But, so when we were first talking about, and I can't speak to what everyone was thinking, all right, because everyone's thinking something differently. I mean, we know what the final result of the vote was, that it was adopted. We wanted to clarify originally that short-term rentals did not have to get business licenses. That was the initial.
Right.
And that's what it said. And so then I think, Mr. Wilms, what you brought up was, well, if we have a property management business and they are managing a short-term rental as a part of that,
Right.
that doesn't give them the exemption.
Correct.
Because they're really doing more or in addition to that. So that led to a change in that F, where we put and exemptions, F, short-term rentals as defined by the city short-term rental ordinance. And then we added the sentence, property management businesses, even though managing short-term rentals as part of their operation, shall not be exempt. That's pursuant to that subsection. That's what we were trying to do. I don't know what anyone was told on the phone. I don't know what anyone's saying. I don't know what anyone's thinking. I know legally, whatever the law is what the ordinance says, okay? So, and it is possible that somebody may have been told something incorrect. And you know, I can't discount any of that. So the reliance on, well, somebody's saying that, so therefore we need to change the ordinance. That, we need to change the ordinance if the ordinance doesn't say what we want it to say. It would be what I would offer there. So there are multiple exemptions, okay? Any one of them would mean you're exempt. So the first one is if you're under 18 years of age operating a business. So let's think about that like the Girl Scout cookies neighborhood lemonade stand type stuff, okay? They don't have to get a business license. B, charitable or fundraising activities conducted solely for public benefit.
Right.
They don't have to get a business license. Temporary businesses associated with festivals, farmers markets, or special events limited to the duration of the event. So no business license if you're gonna sell tomatoes at the farmer's market, the little weekend events that we may have bicycle-wise, if they wanna sell things like that, don't have to get a business license. D, religious organizations, except to the extent they operate separate business activities such as a daycare or a private school. So just operating a church, no business license required. If that church operates a full-time daycare center or a full-time school, then that would be different. That would not be exempt. E, home-based occupations as defined in the city zoning code. There's a specific definition of what home-based occupations are, home-based businesses, and that is what the zoning code allows you to do in your home. And if you're doing that, and that's all you're doing, and you're doing it in compliance with the zoning code, you do not have to have a business license, okay? And then we came to F, and we were gonna say short-term rentals. And then we had the change. So I guess what I would say to you is, let's figure out what you want to have a license and what you don't. And then we'll word it the way we need to, because I think we're trying to argue what the wording was intended to say, or what it, I would just suggest if, the way it is right now, I'm gonna tell you what the law is right now, and if you don't like it, then it needs to be changed. If it's a short-term rental, just because it's a short-term rental, you do not have to have a business license. If it's a home-based business that's lawfully operated in the city, it does not have to have a business license, okay? If you operate a property management business, and you're doing that at home even, and you're doing it in compliance with our zoning code, you don't have to have a business license. Right. If you have an office, let's say you're out by Allen's and you rent a storefront and you run vacation rentals, and you operate and manage properties, even if they're short-term rentals, you have to have a business license because it's not in a home. That's the current law. So if you want to see any of those things changed, then we need to make a change. If you're satisfied with that, whether that's working, then I would suggest to you we don't need to make any change.
And that's where I am.
Okay, well, that's up to y'all. I'm just want to
I
let
think
you
it-
know,
I
make sure
think it
we
should
reset,
work,
know
but-
where we are.
The way the law is written now, it should work. And if you don't qualify for a home-based business because you're doing something that loses one of those 10 points,
Then it's not allowed by the zoning
It's not
code, it's a
allowed.
violation, and we can't license violations.
right.
Mayor.
Travis?
I'm personally okay with all that, Mr. Kelly, but what I will encourage the city council and the city staff members is that we're doing a real disservice to somebody who has a small business that's trying to operate in Bella Vista. If they call up and they say, hey, do I need a business license for this? And we tell them, you might, and go figure it out on your own or go hire an attorney, that's a disservice to our citizens that are trying to run a small business. So no matter what we do, whichever direction we go, as long as we change that and help them through that process, that's my hope out of all of this.
And I would say this, and I mean no disrespect to any people that call us, we only know what they tell us. We don't know the truth. And we have people that don't give us the whole story sometimes. And so we're never going to say, yes, you are lawfully valid. We put our seal of approval on it. No government is ever going to do that with anything. That's why lawyers exist. I'm guilty. I'm a lawyer too. when people say, well, I don't know what the law allows me to do, or I want to be sure, that's why you talk to a lawyer. And I certainly understand you want to have things written simply enough where a common person that's not a lawyer could read it and fairly understand what they're supposed to do. I understand that as well.
So if you qualify for a home-based business, then you're exempt, whether you do one or both of those. So, to me, it's clear, and the amendment is not warranted. And if they get an answer of no on the phone, then the response should be, let me come in and fill out an application and answer those 10 questions, and then it provides you with the basis to make a final determination.
So I would suggest this as well,
Yeah.
without referring to any particular people that may have called. We have people that want to be confused and want to create a problem out of this.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, Taylor?
There's another exemption too that gets lost in the conversation as well. Our ordinance also exempts entities that have licenses from other Arkansas cities.
Yeah, well, that's state
So
law.
if they have a business license from Rogers or Centerton or wherever, they don't need a business license from us either.
Yeah, and that's
That
state
comes
law.
up a lot during this conversation too.
Yes,
That's another
that
exemption.
applies as well. That's state law. So if they're already licensed to do it in Rogers, they can't be required to get a Bella Vista license.
Wendy?
Actually, I had a question about that. So I was looking at City of Rogers, and they have like a home-based business, like basically permit license thing. It's, I think it's $40 and then $10 for every paid employee who also works there. And though it's not a business license, would we accept those as well as proof of?
It is through their business license.
Okay, I know it's under, but it wasn't really technically
It's
called.
just one of the categories.
Okay.
They have categories within their business license.
So if they have that proof, that also counts.
We
Perfect.
Wouldn't need one.
Thank you.
Well, we're just on second reading. The only thing that bothered me a little about Wendy's amendment was we started out saying clearly, if you're an STR owner, you don't have to get this license.
Right.
And when you take 4F out, then you start to, now you have to be an STR owner who has a home-based business, which you usually probably do, but,
I will talk about maybe doing a change, whatever, but thank you for that.
yeah. So
Oh,
are we ready to move on?
Yeah.
Think about it and do
Got
something
what I needed.
next week or next month?
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Jason. Next one is D, an ordinance requiring the Bella Vista Advertising and Promotion Commission to publish financial statements on its official website and for other purposes, and this is also on second reading. Did you want to add anything, Travis, or we talked about this a little last time?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this pretty in-depth last work session, but just to reiterate, this is a tax. This is a tax that's imposed on anyone that prepares food in Bella Vista or has lodging in Bella Vista. And they have oversight via a couple of the council members. And they have, I don't fully understand the contract with the Discover Bella Vista and whoever gets paid out of this. But I've looked through their financials, and I think that just anytime you're taxing somebody, that you should be willing to provide transparency in that. So this is just an easy, transparent thing. We already passed them to post their minutes. They could put the financials with the minutes, which, I regret that I didn't add that to. Partly my intent to capture that. So anyways, slight mistake on my part, and this is my way of correcting that, so.
Larry?
I guess they're subject, because they're a governmental agency, they're subject to FOIA requests, and so anyone who has an interest of whether it's passing or otherwise, all they got to do is give them a call or send them a note, and they've got it. So I don't know that requiring them to post these, it's a special effort on their part to do that, and not that they're trying to conceal something, but if somebody's interested, all you got to do is call them up and ask for it, and they'll send it to you. So I think it's superfluous, personally. Government overreach.
Anna?
Yeah, I just had a question, and I'm not sure who would have the answer, if it's Cassie or Wanda or maybe Mayor Flynn. Have we had FOIA requests for AMP in the past? Have we?
Those would go to the A&P Commission.
Okay.
They may call us and we send them over. I'm not to speak for you, Wanda, but but I know they have received a FOI request over at A&P.
So one in,
I don't know if we know exactly how many. I'm sure they get very much less than we do at the city, but I know that they have had some.
I'm just trying to understand the actual interest from the public. Like, have people been calling off the hook to get this information?
Half the people I
No.
talk to don't even know it exists, so.
No, I'm maybe 2, maybe 3, and they're just redirected to the A&P to get that information from them, since we don't keep those records, like Jason said.
Okay, thank you.
FOIA would come through you then normally?
Yes,
Yeah, so you would know.
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, she is our point person for FOIA from the city point of view, so. Okay, any more comments on that? Okay, we'll go to new business. There's E is an ordinance waiving the requirements of formal competitive bidding and authorizing a contract with Superior Automotive Group in a total amount not to exceed $131,000 for the purchase of 2 2026 Chevrolet Tahoe SSV vehicles with police upfit for use by the police department. Chief, I see you're already up here.
Well, yeah, there's been a lot of discussion about Tahoes lately, so I want to make sure that I can answer any questions you may have. So I provided some information in the package initially to show some of our justification. I don't know if folks have had a chance to read that. But these Tahoes are not on the Arkansas State bid. That's why we're asking for a bid waiver. The waiver specifically is based on the immediate availability of the vehicles with the current vendor that we use is one aspect, because the vehicles are available now. And plus, by using this vendor, they come already upfitted with our police equipment, which is very convenient. So the overall price, when we're given the price, includes our equipment. So that way we don't, we end up saving money and taxes in that regard, because the vehicle comes with the equipment. So that is another good benefit for us. Besides that, I'm not sure if you have specific questions reference to requests in the vehicles.
Travis?
Hey, Chief, are these going to members of the command staff? And if so, where are those vehicles going now that they're done?
So yes, they're going to there's 2 different types of Tahoes, and this is an admin version of the Tahoe. The one reason we rotate these, we start these in our command staff, and they do get rotated down, and the idea is to push these vehicles eventually into our pool fleet, okay? We've experienced with these vehicles, the Tahoe specifically. I've been here for about 9 years as chief. I've been a cop for 34 years. I've driven a lot of different police cars. Since I've been here, we've used Durangos. We still have some. We've used Chargers. We've used Explorers, some pickup trucks, some Equinox, I think. That was not very good. And then some, and then Tahoes themselves. And overall, the Tahoe is really the best overall police platform for everything we're trying to accomplish with one vehicle. And so, yes, so they will be pushed down eventually. The idea is to start them up in the admin, the command staff, and then they'll be pushed down into the travel, the pool fleet for traveling. They're just better travel vehicles. We could get more in them. You know, civilians travel in them. City council members can borrow them, different city staff. And we like to have a few sort of unmarked, non-really police-looking Tahoes for traveling because of safety purposes and reasons. If we put civilians in them specifically, our dispatchers use them a lot of times to travel and go to training and stuff. Yes.
And this has already been approved by the voters through the bond, correct?
So yeah, this is going to be bond fund money, and so we have it been approved for 2 years' worth of vehicles in the voter-approved bond.
With that said, I move to put this on the consent agenda.
It's an ordinance.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I
Yeah.
tried.
I'm sorry, Mr.
I tried to put on the consent agenda, but we
Oh,
can't.
gotcha.
Sorry.
It's an ordinance, yeah.
I tried to give as much information as possible to make sure that I can answer any questions, but if there's anything further, I'd be happy to answer.
The term upfit means that they're going to
The
be
police
delivered to
equipment?
you, ready to fly,
Yeah, the
right?
police equipment, exactly, and that's the big benefit of getting the upfit rolled into the price of the vehicle before we take possession of the vehicle. Then we do save on taxes on that upfit. We don't end up paying some taxes, so it is very beneficial.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think that's all the questions. The next one's an ordinance amending the Bella Vista zoning ordinance and map to rezone property described in rezoning petition number 2026-63851, county parcel number 16-43201-000 from RE Residential Estate District to AP Agricultural Preservation District. Taylor, did you want to talk about this a little bit?
Sure. The Planning Commission held a public hearing per state law and local law on April 13th at 4:30 PM. No one came to speak. We've yet to receive a public comment on this. It's been on our website since the noticing started back on March 2nd. So it's been over a month, almost 2 months of us in comment period, and we've not received anything. This is surrounded by similar uses that they're requesting. It's currently a residential estate, which is typically a large lot with one single-family home on it. The surrounding property is agricultural in nature. Their neighbors have a horse and a fence and a barn next to them. The south is agricultural as well. And so due to the surrounding land uses, it meets, it's compatible, and staff recommended approval. And then Planning Commission, after the public hearing, voted unanimously to recommend to you all to approve the new zone of agricultural preservation. So.
Larry?
Are they able to do anything more as an agricultural preservation district?
Well, I believe the intent is to have chickens and goats, and so that would be the nature-based request
They're
of
not
their.
POA land, so they would be
It's
able
not
to
in
do
the
that.
POA, yep.
Okay,
So.
all right. And you can't do that in an RE?
No, you can have up to, I think, 6 chickens, don't quote me on that, if you're not within the POA, if you're just subject to our zoning code. But you can't have roosters, you can't have livestock, you can't have goats, you can't have pigs, you can't have anything other than hobby chickens
Okay,
in our residential zones.
so are they going to put up a,
A fence.
well, a huge barn to raise chickens?
No, that's not been disclosed to us. It's just a
Okay.
fence and then a movable, mobile, chicken house. But yeah, no development plans other than the fence enclosure that's required for livestock, and the hobby chicken house has been disclosed to us.
Okay,
And this was a discussion too that we had with them, the applicant and the Board of Zoning Adjustment, a couple months back. They were seeking several variances to try and achieve this. But after discussing with them, and also best practice, you don't want to give a bunch of variances to achieve a use. The rezoning was discussed, and so that's the path they went through, and that's why they're here.
Okay. Next one, we'll skip G. Next one is H, a resolution authorizing the development of a Razorback Greenway corridor key place plan for the city of Bella Vista. Taylor?
Okay, this is part of a large regional project. We've currently completed or just recently completed phase 1 of the Razorback Greenway corridor plan, which essentially Bella Vista partnered with Northwest Arkansas Regional Planning Commission, as well as the other 6 cities that the Razorback Greenway runs through. And a regional land use plan was created to activate the Razorback Greenway with more uses than just recreational. So essentially, we studied other infrastructures similar to the Razorback Greenway, such as the Atlanta Beltline, amongst others, especially outside of the country as well, and looked how they activated their shared use paths to bring economic development to the cities that are within them by bringing non-residential development, commercial development, basically trail-oriented or trail-side stop development, whether it's small-scale restaurants, small-scale retail, et cetera, or it's within housing, so people can use it as a transportation mode rather than driving. And so that was created and completed, and the board of directors, the regional board of directors recently approved and adopted that. Now, phase 2 is where we're at, where each key place that was identified within that regional plan, within all 7 of the cities, are now getting their own plan. Through a grant that Regional Planning Commission is receiving. They're overseeing it. We're not at any part of the grant or the money side of things. We're just benefiting from it through this regional planning grant that the Walton Family Foundation has invited them to apply for. And so essentially this resolution is required to be given to regional planning in order for them to apply. Similar to the others we're going to talk about tonight, to show that Bella Vista is supportive of a key place, future land use plan being developed for the Razorback Greenway. And the fun part about Bella Vista versus the other 6 cities are working with what's already built. They've already got the Razorback Greenway, it's been there, some cities for 10 years, where we are at the very beginning and it's being developed. So we actually get to be on the front end of this project rather than the back end and planning around it. So we have a unique perspective compared to the other 6 cities. It's pretty exciting. In Bella Vista, they're working, should you all show support, we would be working from the north-south. So Bella Vista would be one of the first cities to go and get their key place plan this year, if you guys approve this resolution, so.
I put this on consent agenda.
Okay, is that all right with everyone? Yeah, it's really pretty exciting. This company, Field Operations, has done some pretty extensive plans, have a lot of interesting ideas about how to develop the area around the Razorback Greenway. So I think it's going to be really good for Northwest Arkansas in general. Okay, so we'll put that on consent agenda. Next one is I, resolution expressing the willingness of the city of Bella Vista to utilize federal aid transportation alternative program funds, otherwise known as TAP.
So this is the exact same project. We sought a resolution from you all last month to apply to regional planning's grant, surface transportation block grant, which is similar to this. They're both federal funds, both goes through RDOT, just our local regional entity gets to create a selection committee and divide amongst their own funds to the local projects. It's a much broader application, it's against the whole state. So with that said, it's best practice, increase your chances, throw your name in the hat more than once, and so that's what we're doing. If you apply for a regional planning grant, they always say, please make sure you apply for the RDOT grant as well, so that way there's more money. I believe it's unlimited this year for TAP. There's not a cap, whereas the SCGBA grant that we put in a few weeks ago with the March resolution, there is a cap, and so smaller chance, that's why we want to apply twice. But all the numbers are the same. Everything that we talked about last month is the same on this. It's to bring the Blowing Springs Greenway from Metfield Skills Park to Sleaford Lane with a trailside stop parking lot.
Consent agenda?
Okay. Thank you. Let's see, the next one is Resolution J, expressing the willingness of the city of Bella Vista to utilize federal aid recreational trails program funds.
So this one's new. The Regional Planning Commission did not have any grant funds for this. We have been targeting some trailheads that need some TLC. If they're having erosion control, runoff, rutting, the gravel is basically not staying where it needs to be. That's why gravel is not best practice for parking standards, especially if there's slopes, and in Bella Vista there's lots of slopes. So we have identified Huntley Gravity, Tweety Bird, and Snowbird with the support of the POA, because we are partnered with them on maintaining some of these. These are licensed to the public on improving them by getting some hard surface asphalt down, improving the access management, making those safer. I'm sure you're aware the Tweety Bird parking lot can be a little sketchy to pull out of sometimes due to the rutting that is happening and erosion on that. So by getting a hard surface there, we want to improve the safety access for those leaving and entering, as well as striping, ADA, and putting some water fountains on those 3 as well. So the overall estimated project amounts are a little over $500,000. So the 80% we'd be requesting from RDOT or federal funds would be a little over $400,000, and then we also received a note that there is an interest to provide or support the 20% match by a local foundation. However, we've not been invited formally like the last one, but they said they are interested in supporting that should we get this grant. So that's all I've got on that one.
That's great news. Consent agenda, if you ask me.
Larry?
So is it in an 80-20 program? Is that what
Yes.
this is?
Mhm.
Okay.
I also just wanted to thank
Sure.
staff for going after all of this grant money and staying abreast to this and doing all these important projects that make our public use areas so much nicer. So thank you for your work on that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Taylor. So we already did K and L. Next one's a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into a contract with Garrett Excavating, Inc. at the amount of $99.31 per ton for asphalt street resurfacing hot mix overlay, and further authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into a contract with Vance Brothers LLC in the amount of $3.13 per square yard for slurry seal streets. Karen or Dan?
I got this one.
Okay.
So yeah, this is our 2026 resurfacing program. It was put out for publish for 2 weeks. We got 4 total bidders. All this information should be in your packets, including the bidders tab. With the hot mix asphalt application, there was 3 bidders, Garrett X being the lowest bidder, and 1 bidder being Vance Brothers for the slurry seal application. They're pretty much the only players that usually bid, that's why there's only 1. With that being said, we suggest awarding bid to Garrett X for the hot mix asphalt, which funding for that was approved by the voters in the bond, and approved Vance Brothers for the slurry seal application funding, which was approved in the 2026 operating budget by City Council.
Yeah, I was pretty happy with the hot mix, especially because of oil being so high priced. I was worried about how the bids were gonna come in. I think we were guesstimating 110 a ton
That's
before we
where
got
we
the bids.
estimated.
Yeah, and, you know, we had this pop in oil, which is a big ingredient. So I was really thrilled with this, and I do think that Dan and Karen deserve a lot of credit. They went to this new system where they do the whole east side 1 year, and then central the next, and west the next. So they're not running all over town so much, and it seems like we've been getting good pricing under that new
It
system.
definitely helps in the mobilization costs.
Yeah, so, Larry?
Garrett Excavating, is that a new player in the asphalt paving business?
Not necessarily new by name. They used to be Deco, and they changed to Garrett.
Okay,
We did use Garrett. They won the contract in 2023, so they're not new players.
totally,
We're
not totally
familiar.
new, okay. So they were Decon before? Deco, okay, all right. Is there a map that goes along with this paving project to know where the streets are that you're gonna pave?
No. We have one, but we don't put that out because everything is subject. We don't commit to anything until it's actually on the ground.
Well,
Things can change at any given moment, so we don't want to promise anybody anything until it's actually on the ground.
I guess
Then
I'd
you know
like to
you
see
got it.
where the streets are that are being contemplated,
This year, we're focusing on Central.
recognizing that not all of them will be paved necessarily, and there may be additional ones that you will add to that contract by agreement with your contractor. But I'd like to know where it is that you're proposing to pave.
Swing by.
Huh?
I think just swing by.
Well, the central area is a large area.
Swing by.
We have it all mapped out at our office.
Okay.
You can come take a look at it.
All right, all right.
We don't want to put out any promises due to the fact that it's an
I
ever-moving.
fully appreciate that, and I
Component.
recognize that, but keeping it too confidential is not good either.
No, we have it.
It's fully public. The problem is if they can't get to a particular road, maybe they find a drainage problem, you find something.
Yeah.
And then here, the neighbors, and then people are mad and they're
Right.
disappointed and
I'm not
they're gonna say we
suggesting-
overpromised and, you know,
Well,
Not
when
suggesting
peop-
that we hang it up at City Hall.
When people call and request information and say their particular street is on our list, we let them know it is on the consideration list.
Right.
We cannot promise anything until it's physically been put down.
That goes
We
without
can-
saying.
We can find busted water lines, we can find all kinds of things that end up, for one reason or another, getting out road.
You might find that the subgrade is not suitable when you get there, or requires a different approach to solving a problem.
Correct.
Any more? Anna?
So I'm looking at the historic bid, unit pricing summary, and it looks like everything is lower on here except for the street striping was the only one that was considerably higher. Why is that higher?
That's just how they put out their bid. With these bids, the contractors will play their profits into different line items. So that's why it's never a consistent number.
Could I ask a question?
Sure, Larry?
On your list here that you gave us, overlay, water valves, milled butt joints, and street striping is all under the paving contract, right?
Yes.
And the last one, the slurry seal, that's a separate thing, separate contract. That's the one that's going to Vance Brothers.
Correct.
And so what you're trying to explain is that when contractors put a bid together, they will likely play with where they put the money in their bid because they may think that this item is going to have extras, and so they may add a few dollars in that item because it will give them a better profit at the end of the road. Yeah.
Yeah, and when we get these bids, we do all the math and we add everything up all the way down the list. It's not just looking at one category or the other, who beat who where. It's at the end of the day, what's that best number?
As an example, the bid on the water valves is 1 cent each. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what are the other numbers that are in that list? 39 and 50?
May I,
Are those other bids?
we're just trying to concentrate on the hot mix overlay that pertains to the
Well-
resolution at hand, correct? I mean, we're
And
not
the
going over the
slurry.
whole budget
It's
for the street
both.
department.
Both applications.
Okay.
Hot
All of
mix.
this is a part of that contract.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. These are the pieces that they broke out because you have units
I
that you
understand.
need to measure and pay for, and there may be additional, there
All
may be fewer.
applications of work.
So it's on a per
Within-
unit basis. So one street may require more paving thickness to balance it out, and so you may have more tonnage there. And so at the end of the work job, you may end up having more tonnage or cut back
Correct.
on streets you
It's
pave.
it's an ebb and flow through the whole process.
So the breakdown of the numbers that you have, can you tell us, like the hot mix overlay? There's a 99.31, a 99.70, 102.50. Is that the three lowest bidders? Is
Those
that
are
what
all
that
three
represents?
bidders. Those are all three bidders that bid this year.
So in what order? The lowest bid is the first number?
Lowest bid is,
The first number?
the lowest bid was Garrett X.
Wow.
The second lowest bid was Emery Sap. The third bid was APEC.
But if I were to look at this series of numbers, the per ton cost of 99.31 for the hot mix overlay goes with the 1 cent for the valve boxes. Goes with the $400 for the milled butt joints. Okay, and I didn't open
Yeah,
those.
it's in your packet here.
Okay,
It'll be this page here, the complete bidders tab of who
Yeah, I
bid what
did.
on every single.
and I didn't have
Item.
time to go through that in detail, so these three numbers, are those the first, second, and third bids? Is that what they are?
They're just lowest to highest.
So from the lowest to the highest. The lowest meaning Garrett Brothers is the first number in every one, and then your second bidder is the next one.
Here's
Is that right?
here's the grid. That helps out any.
So it's not, it's actually the lowest item price bid.
It's the complete total of all the numbers.
Yeah, so
And if you add
So
up
the lowest
the
bidder- the
complete
lowest
set
bidder
of
for the
numbers
hot-
for Garrett X and the complete set of the next lowest bid, Emery Sat, there's a difference there of just shy $2,800.
Yeah, but
Emery-
when I look
Garrett
at,
X beat Emery Sat.
when I look at Garrett's bid, they've got 99.31, they're the low bidder, 99.31. And I go to the next one, and their bid on valves is 39.74, which is the middle number.
Correct.
And then the milled butt joints is 909, which is the middle number. And the striping is at 30
Yes,
cents,
and
which
if you look
is
at
the
the very
lowest.
bottom of that column, it'll say totals. So just because one is better in one category than the other, they don't, I'm not gonna have Garrett X do the asphalt and Emery Sap do the valve adjustments.
Right.
It's gonna
You
be
picked
a
the bid based
total
on, you
down
picked
that
the bid
line.
based on the bottom
when you add-
line number,
When you
correct?
add those up, Garrett X beat out Emery Sap by just shy of $2,800.
Yeah. $2,000. Right? Less than 2,000, well, 2,800. That was close,
About
Okay.
2794.
yeah. That's not leaving much on the table.
Okay, any more questions?
Well,
Thank-
I do have one, and
Craig?
this does not pertain to the resolution at hand.
Yeah.
If I could just throw a quick thank you to Dan and Karen back there. Gordon Hollow, I don't know if anybody drives Gordon Hollow daily. Karen and I have been talking back and forth about getting that curve a little safer, and they did a fantastic job. I mean, you can see coming around that curve going 40 miles an hour, you can actually see down the trail or close to it, and I just wanted to say thanks. They were really quick and did a great job. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay, we'll move on. The next item is N, resolution amending the 2026 city budget to approve the addition of one half staff headcount to create a full-time custodial position for the police department. And Chief's going to talk about that.
So I want to start off by saying it's not strictly for the police department, it's just going to be housed under the police department. So I've been working with HR on this, with the mayor a little bit. So what's going to happen is later on this year, when the city was a lot smaller, a lot of individual employees sort of took on tasks that normally in a bigger city would be done by a staff, let's say a maintenance department in the city, okay, which we don't have, and we're not quite big enough to have our own maintenance department. So what's happening is a couple of, one fire employee is leaving it later this year. He specifically does a lot of the contracts, manages the contracts, does a lot of the handyman work around City Hall, around different departments and lock boxes and things like that for the fire department, as well as a civilian who a lot of folks know who does work for us on the side, kind of just because he's kind of bored a lot of times and does a lot of work for us, and you know, I think he probably loses money with what he does for us. He just likes to do it. But he's been doing it for years, and he's kind of handyman stuff, and he's going to retire as well and kind of quit doing it when this fire employee retires. So we're going to lose the ability to have sort of a handyman type thing. So if you folks remember, I think it was a couple years ago when I had a part-time basically janitorial staff, and then we made him full-time because then he started going to the library because the library was having the same problem. They didn't have anybody to do handyman work for them kind of things and triage things. And so he's full-time kind of doing stuff for us, stuff for the library. And then I have a part-time position for a custodian. That's not filled right now. So what we want to do is make that part-time position I have for a custodian full-time. So that custodian can take care of this whole building and do some of the things outside and some of the things that are my full-time employee does, who works here and the library now. Instead, that full-time employee will be sort of a building management type employee, and he'll manage things for us here, building-wise, like triage things to see if he could fix them as a handyman or if we have to call a contractor, okay? He manages our contracts here as well. That employee will still work with the library, do the same things he's doing, but he's then also gonna move and do some work over at City Hall. And then some of the work at the fire department, like their lock boxes and stuff and installation. It's just kind of doing some additional things for the city. So we will have a building maintenance position that's housed in the police department that'll do sort of building maintenance here at the library, as well as City Hall, and some work for the fire department, okay? And then manage all the city contracts, like our mowing contracts and the different contracts that the current, the fire department personnel handle, okay? And then my custodian here will go from half-time to full-time, that's what we're asking for, to be able to keep up with the work that now John is not gonna be doing here, because he's now doing additional things for City Hall. So it's just kind of a shifting of work. And so that's kind of where we're going, because again, we're not big enough as a city to have our own sort of maintenance department, so we're kind of trying to house it under the police department, because I already had the personnel, and the easiest move would be to make that half-time person full-time. I'm not asking for extra money right now, I can absorb that, I believe in my existing budget, I usually have vacancy savings within payroll, because, you know, I'm not always fully staffed. And then we'll just address it next year when we do the budget for the full-time employee. The extra expense is somewhere around $37,000 annually, okay, to make this happen. And we're gonna probably get this implemented probably June-ish if it's approved. And so we're talking half the year, so it'll probably cost somewhere around $21,000. But again, I'll absorb that in my existing budget. Any questions? That was a lot.
Shay?
I support this, and I'm okay with this being on the consent agenda.
Okay, I'll make note of that. I would like to give a shout out to our HR Director, Glenda Kelderman. She saw that these people were retiring and said, hey, we need to start planning what we're gonna do, because a really good part-time handyman can be quite valuable. And the employee who's leaving's been with the city for more than 40 years and been a great employee in the fire department. And ironically, some of the people that the police chief has been finding to help our former firemen.
Actually, both are.
So, yeah, so it's, I guess police and fire do get along.
Any questions?
Anyway, I was just really pleased with the proactive approach by people thinking, hey, this is coming up in a few months, we gotta figure out what we're gonna do.
Yes, I didn't figure this out myself. It was Glenda that sort of brought the problem up, and then we kind of brainstormed on the best way to resolve it. And this is kind of what we came up in the end for now. So we think it's a good plan, and it's the easiest plan to implement, because the body is already there, or the position's already there. We just have to make it full-time.
Okay, thank you. The next resolution is amending the rules of order and procedure of the Bella Vista City Council regarding provisions for council response to public comment. And I think that, was this yours, Larry?
It was.
Yeah.
And the rationale really is that it is an unnecessary thing that we comment or be put in the position of having to comment or obligated to. We hear some sad stories sometimes, and we hear some difficult occasions being expressed. We need to take those under advisement without having an obligation to respond. And I think there is no obligation for us to do it now, but this would take it off the agenda, so.
Wendy?
So Larry, I thank you for this. I know when this was originally came to the council, Steve Burke brought it up to have the council reply initiated. And that was because of, if I remember correctly, with the whole stump dump fire situation, people were talking these very sad stories, and he felt it was callous just to sit there and nod and keep going. And so the intention was very, very good, and I appreciate Burke's foresight in that. When I first started on council, that first meeting, January 2023, I did have a discussion item to remove our reply to public comment, because in that last half of a year or so in 2022, council replies sometimes got a little contentious by some former council members, and were borderline just a little aggressive, or maybe it didn't need to be. That did not go over well with the public, public did not appreciate that I was bringing that up, but I do support this. I think that there's a time where we can meet with the people afterwards in the meeting and talk to them individually, and I support this.
Travis?
Yeah, I think it's one of the greatest pieces of legislation that I know of that Councilman Burks, or former councilman, brought. I don't support this if you don't feel comfortable saying something, or you don't know what to say, then just don't say anything. But I think taking it away from the other council members is bad service to the people that come and speak to us. So I'm not in favor of this. I don't support this.
Okay, so it'll come up for a vote next week at the meeting. We can discuss it some more. Next one is Q, referring to the Planning Commission for public hearing and recommendation, a zoning code change to permit newly constructed.
We skip one, P.
Oh, I'm sorry. Resolution to provide for a study of city participation in the Arkansas Public Employee Retirement System, APRS, for non-uniformed city employees. And this is Travis, I think.
Yes. Yeah, thanks, Mayor. So when I learned that the only option non-uniform city employees have for retirement is a 457B or deferred compensation plan, I thought we could probably do better for our employees. We're a growing city. We're sitting in a $20 million building. We have another $15 million building going up. Can't remember how many millions of dollars the training center cost us. Virtually, we buy a new vehicle every month. So I think it's time we start investing in our personnel. And this is something that I'd like for the city to look into doing. This is a actual pension plan that's available to non-uniform public employees. I know the council always likes to ask me, about other cities and their benefits. So I was hopeful that if this gets passed, the city could study that. I'm really not aware of any city in the area that doesn't offer this, that's like-sized. But I haven't reached out to all of them. I just know that most city employees in Northwest Arkansas have this retirement system. And there's employees that would be eligible for retirement now here if we had had this. So again, this is just prompting the city to do like a feasibility study, basically.
Shay?
I just want to add on that you'd said, we'd be curious about what other cities are doing, but I also just want to make sure that we include like a financial aspect to it as well, which I'm sure it would, but.
Yeah, it has a study cost as part of it.
Yeah, as a part of the study, yeah.
Glenda, did you want to speak?
Knowing this was on the agenda, sorry. So knowing this was on the agenda, I just did some preliminary investigation, and I have a couple of pieces of information for everybody that I'll share with you. We can go through it a little bit if you want, or you can look at it, and we go through it later, however you prefer to do it. On the top is,
Thank you.
okay, briefly, and then you can ask questions or save them for another time, but on the top page, what I did is just evaluated really quickly the difference between an estimate of what we are contributing to what is our 401A plan. So right now, the city has a 457 plan, which is the employee contribution towards their retirement fund. And then along with that, we have a 401A plan, which is the employer matching funds. How that plan works is for every dollar the employee puts into the program, we match it, like their $1, we put $2 in to match. So it's double their contribution. That is true up to 5%. So if you contribute 3%, the city will contribute 6% as a match. That stops at 5. So if you contribute 5%, the city will match it with 10%. If you put 8% into the plan, the city will only still put the 10% in as the employer match. So there are funds being set aside for employees as matching contributions. What I did is broke it down by department. The first section to the left of the blue shows what the employer cost per pay period is. And what I did is I took the first pay period of April, just for a sample. And as you can see, the 401A, the ER means employer current contribution. So right now, that is a real contribution number that we are contributing towards the employee's 401A. And again, when you see the annual total, that's based on that one pay period. If everyone were to put the maximum of 5% contribution in, that we would match with 10%, you'll see it goes up significantly. And that is because not everyone puts the total of 5% in. Some people don't even contribute anything towards it. Some people might put 3% instead of 5%. And then the last column before the blue line, you'll see what the city would have to pay if we were to move to this APERS plan. Because APERS requires a city contribution of 15.32% of every employee's gross earnings. And right now, we're stopping with 10% of gross earnings for the max. Yes.
Shay?
So this is 1 month, so the additional spend annually would be just roughly 6.5 million? Is
No,
that-
I'm sorry. So if
Okay.
you jump down to the bottom, it shows totals, and
Oh,
then
annual,
pay
I'm
periods
sorry.
was 26 per year. So the actual increase would be $547,648 at the max, if, we were contributing the max. Additional city spend, using what we are currently, APERS versus employer max. So right now, it's 547,648, based on real contributions. The lower number, that 339, is if everyone contributed the maximum amount of 5%. So,
Okay. So roughly, if it were the 547,000, that's like roughly 2% of our annual budget. I know you're not Kim, but just doing
I
some
don't-
rough math, I think that's right.
Is it 25 million, or is that about right? Is 25 million about our annual budget?
Yeah, that's
I
about
think
right,
that's
yeah.
right, yeah.
And just to clarify, it's 547,000 additional?
Additional,
Okay.
yes. Based on April, the first payroll in April, if we annualize that amount as the current contributions. But if everyone were to put the maximum contribution of 5% in and the city had to match 10%, it would be the 339. The second page just gives a little bit of history and some additional information about it. Cassie found for me that back in 2012, the city actually considered adding APERS. And I don't know all the history of it, I wasn't here then, but from what we could find, it was too expensive at the time to add APERS because from what I could read from the information in the newspapers where she found it, they actually enhanced the employer match up to $2 for every dollar. I don't know if it was just dollar for dollar or what it was before that. But they voted not to proceed with APERS back then. APERS is not optional once we start it. So if the city decides that is the direction we would go, every employee would have to contribute to it. It works just like lot fee. So people can't opt out of APERS if the city would decide to switch to APERS. Once the city would decide to go to APERS, we can never back out of it. It's that way forever for the city. And you can see there in point 1, we're required to contribute 15.32 of gross pay for anyone working 80 hours or more, which is monthly, which is 960 annually. So not all the part-time, but most part-time people also are part of that program. The mayor's position, actually, we would contribute 17.32% of their pay. Employee is required at this time to contribute 6.25% of their gross pay. And I don't think I have that here today, but that is gradually increasing year by year as far as what the employee pays. And each employee receives 1 month of credited service for each month they work. The mayor receives 2 months of service for each month they are mayor. This is where the benefit probably comes in for those people who've been with other cities. They, their APRS from another city is credited when they come to work at the city of Bella Vista. Latvian APRS are reciprocal, so that credit also transfers along with employees if they move into different roles. The employee is partially vested after 5 years. The employee can only receive their contributions plus interest if they leave prior to 5 years of service. Right now, with our 457 plan and the matching 401A, everyone's vested 100% immediately. So when they leave the city, if they do, they get their contributions, the earnings, and the city's matching contributions and all the earnings. Yes.
Could we maybe get a poll of those who would be eligible for this on their opinions on it? Or is that possible or easy?
I understand that question, and I'm always a little hesitant to poll people unless you're really seriously considering doing something, because there get to be a lot of strong feelings from people about, why are you asking me if you aren't going to do it in the first place? Not that I'm not willing to do that, I'd be happy to do it, but I think that's a consideration we need to certainly have.
Greg?
Okay, thanks. Did you say that every employee would have to, they would all be required to contribute? There's no way that, okay.
That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
And that's into perpetuity and forever, so, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Right now, and I know nobody likes the idea that 401Ks and 457 plans and 401A plans have loans, but loan features are available to employees in our current plan. There are no loans available to employees to take money out for
They
various
can get
purposes.
private loans against that from like outside agency.
That's possible, but they can't get a loan through that.
Shay?
account.
I know I meet on a committee with you, and we discuss the employees' retirement plans. And the participation, is it around 40%, or what was I don't want to quote that, but what's the participation in the current plans?
I can't tell you that number, I can look it up. It's low overall because half of our population are police and fire who already contribute to the lot fee program.
Okay.
So if they contribute at all to the 457 plan, they don't get a match from the city. So they get lot fee, they contribute to lot fee, and then they can contribute to the 457 plan.
And you'd have to look at what the percentage is of the non-uniformed, to have a
Yes.
rational number.
Yes, and we can get that,
Yeah.
for sure.
I would, where would you draw the line of polling the people that would be impacted by this? Because I believe that the overwhelming majority of people would support moving to this because it's a phenomenal benefit that we could offer them that we're not. But that's just my opinion. I would love to know the people that are actually working here. So when could we actually like put out a Survey Monkey or however you poll the employees? I know you don't want to do it prematurely,
No,
but.
we could do it.
Well, the resolution for the council is to do that, is to study
Okay.
it. So that's kind of jumping ahead, so.
Okay,
The
awesome.
council has to decide whether it wants to take that step through
Yeah,
this
we were
resolution.
talking about studying it. A couple things I wanted to mention. The pension plans we have with police and fire are unique, and APRS is also unique in this way. The employer has all the costs they normally have with the pension plan. And when the pension plans were initially developed, back in 1930s, 1940s, the idea was the employer had these costs, but they had the benefit of the employee staying. In this case, the employee can leave and go to anybody else in Arkansas and take their pension with them. So you have all the costs. The employer has all the costs, but they don't have the benefits you normally have with a defined benefit pension plan. Because people leave. In fact, I believe right now, without looking at the numbers, I think our turnover is higher in police and fire than it is in the other people. I'm perfectly willing to study this, don't get me wrong. Second thing is, our match is 10%, and I believe the 3 largest employers, Walmart, J.B. Hunt, and Tyson, are more around the 4 or 5%. Varies a little from company to company. They're maybe around 4 or 5% match. Now, you guys would know about the Walmart piece, but
6%.
yeah. So the 10%, I don't know anybody who has a 10% match except us, actually, any private company. So we always felt like we're kind of making up for it a little bit that way. And the other thing is, I'm not clear, I don't know if you are, Glenda. So what happens if somebody's already been here 10 years? I mean, do we pay some money to, do we have to buy, how, do we
Well-
buy into the plan, or how does that?
So on, kind of halfway down, it says starting APRS. There are 2 options. Number 1, the city chooses to begin tracking years of service the date APRS begins. So basically, nobody would have any credited service from any point before that time. So everybody would start earning their years of service at that point in time. With that, there are no back payments by the city or the employees to pay for the credit to date, basically. So if somebody's here already 10 years, which we have several of those people, they would start their pension from the date this begins, all their credit. So however many years it takes to retire under this program, this is day 1 for them. It doesn't go back if we choose that as an option. There is also another option where the city could pay back for all the years of service for that individual, and that individual would also have to pay for their years of service, or the city would have to cover that on behalf of the employees. And the person that I talked to at APRS said no one ever does that because it's terribly expensive, and they won't even do any kind of estimate for us unless we choose to go with APRS and say we're going to fund that back to whatever their hire date was. So we don't know how much that would cost. The other thing is, for those employees who were with the POA, none of that POA time can be counted because that's a private entity.
What happened to the retirement funds that the POA had for those employees that rolled into the city? Did that get transferred into the city as a part of their monies?
Do you have
You
any?
know?
No, I mean, well, we had police and fire that were LOPFI, and they were participating in LOPFI
Right.
when they were there.
Yeah.
So that just continued on, and the city took on those new liabilities, and in fact, I think took on some legacy liabilities related to the old pension plan. I think that when we took on non-uniformed, we hired some. I think they just began with our program of the 2-for-1 up to 10%. I think, they did not have a pension at the POA. They had some sort of a 401, 450, whatever,
They had
401K
a
probably in
401
private
I think they had a
sector.
401K plan over there.
I would guess, and I don't know this for sure, but I would guess that what they did is, that was just their plan, and they could choose that to roll it into some other private plan, or keep that.
They left employment with the POA, so they
Yeah.
probably could have rolled it into an
Yeah.
IRA.
Because you can do that with any employer that you leave in private sector, so.
Mr. Mayor,
Craig?
is it fair to ask, I know Chief Sims is sliding down in his chair back there, but is it fair to ask either of the chiefs what their opinions are?
They're on LOPI.
They're on LAFI.
Well, I know, but I mean, have you heard grumblings from employees about needing to switch to a new system, or that the system that we have in place isn't good, or doesn't provide enough, anything like that?
This is only for non-uniformed.
What,
this is only for non-uniformed,
Yeah.
right?
Well, well,
So it'd be for
employee,
like,
But they have
employees.
some non-uniformed employees.
oh, okay, okay.
Right, so the
Maybe
police
that's what he's
department
referring
would
to.
have,
There's both.
police
Dispatch would
department,
be,
Yeah.
dispatch
police
would be
department has
eligible for this.
dispatch and admin.
Larry,
And-
I can't hear what she's saying, please.
Yeah, the police department has dispatch and some admin employees, and really any admin, any planning department, street department, all of those kinds of people. But the building department would be admin in the fire department.
Okay, well, I'm just asking for the people who would be impacted. I mean, that's, you have
I've heard
people-
from several people, they have no interest in us changing it, but those are people who've been here a while.
Well, I mean,
Because they wouldn't get credit.
when ground zero is the day you start, and you've got 10 years invested, I can't imagine saying, well, oh, well, you know, that doesn't work, so.
Chief came up, I guess if he was gonna.
Well, I just didn't know if you had heard that any kind of grumblings or just comments or anything about what the retirement plans.
I do have a large civilian staff. I have my dispatch, and
Yeah.
so I do have a large civilian staff. And over the years I've been here, I've heard many of them wish that we did have lot fee, okay? And so that has been brought up, and so, and I'll speak from my perspective. Okay, so when I try to hire people, when I try to hire dispatchers, I rarely do I get dispatchers from other agencies who have lot fee, or I'm sorry, who have APRs, because they don't want to lose their APRs, because they're going to come here, they won't get APRs. And so I think it does hinder me in hiring some of my dispatch personnel, because I can't, when the mayor mentioned this, like cops, you know, they'll go from, sometimes it's a benefit, because I'll glean officers from other agencies, because they can come here, they like it better here, and they bring their retirement with them, and they don't miss anything, okay? I also sometimes lose officers, because they'll leave here and they'll take their pension with them, so it's a give and a take. With dispatchers, I never am able to glean any experienced dispatchers from Arkansas, because nobody wants to leave who currently has APRs, because they're gonna come here and not be able to get APRs. And so that's just my perspective. I know the finances in that aspect is a difficult thing, and that's things you folks have to do. But I can speak anecdotally that over the years I've been here, I've had many of my dispatch staff specifically, because that's a majority of them, that wish we had APRs. Go ahead.
So sorry if this is asked and answered while I was using the restroom, but if a dispatcher had APRs, or a different municipal worker had APRs, left their city, came here, we didn't have APRs, are they able to, like, when it gets restarted, if we started this, would they lock in back where they were? So if they are at year 12
Yes.
at their old place of
Yes,
business?
I've known many employees who moved around different state jobs, different city jobs that have APRs, and they take it with them. And if they go to a job that doesn't have APRs, and then they go to a job 5 years later with APRs, they're able to restart that time. So yes, that time stays with them in perpetuity. So. Is that it? I mean,
Mayor.
Yeah, that's all I had.
Travis?
Yeah, I was kind of curious if Chief Sims had the same, because you have some non-uniform staff, have they expressed to you a willingness to participate in APRs?
I only have two,
Oh, you do? Okay.
I only have two staff members that were on APRS before they come here. And I don't know if they said anything when they were hired here with HR about that concern of not being on APRS, or, you know, the retirement system that we have, because that's laid out to them when they're hired in the process. But I have not had anybody say that's come here, why are we not on APRS? And I've only got two that come from previous cities that had APRS, or the county. So everybody else was either hired without any type of retirement system, they're doing our retirement system, or they didn't have any retirement system until they come here, so.
Shay?
I just wanted to thank you for putting this together, and I'll be sure to
Yeah,
read it
it's
before.
great. Yeah, we need to take some time to study it.
Yeah, just gotta go
I'm perfectly willing to look into it. There's another factor with defined benefit pension plans, and that is, that's not what she showed, isn't necessarily the whole liability. You have the risk. I mean, people at a certain age, certain experience, they get a certain amount of money. The employer has the risk of how the stock market does. In the matching fund type of situation, this is why all the private entities went to this. We give them 10% and we're done. We have no liability other than that. It's done. And they're gonna make what they're gonna make. So the stock market risk is on the employer in a defined benefit pension plan. Stock market does cover you for a long time. You still owe X. It'll make a difference how the market does. So there's a kind of an intrinsic cost, and now a lot of our employees have it. Obviously, all the fire and police do. And it's a competitive market, and it's, you know, if we said, gee, I think we won't have that, I imagine it'd be pretty darn hard to hire a policeman or a fireman. Everybody else has it except you. One thing surprised me a little bit, we've had, in Taylor's department, we've had some people come to us from cities that have APRS. Because some people say, well, it's kind of hard to hire APRS employees when you don't have APRS, but we have had some people do that.
Yeah, it's a large pool of that shared risk, because it's not just the city sharing, right? It's all of APRS have that
True.
shared risk. Another thing,
Yeah.
it's gonna cost money to take care of employees, but it costs money to build this facility too. We spend, the $547,000 is essentially one Tahoe a month, basically. I mean, thumb math, right? Easy. Just, another thing is that once this person becomes eligible, this is a pension that they'll receive for the rest of their life. So, at the other one, they could spend it all. So this is a monthly payment that they'll receive until they die. And then I think some of the options you can, you could take a reduced pension in the event that you pass before your spouse or whoever your beneficiary is, then they get a portion of your pension for the rest of their life. So this is in my opinion, this is a phenomenal benefit that we could utilize to attract and retain talented and educated people. I'm not saying we don't already employ those people, but it's just another thing that we could do to offer it. And I believe, hopefully we'll see when they do the study, if the council approves it, that the majority of the cities in our area are already offering this. So I feel like we're behind. But this all might be a moot point if we do the study and the employees that are gonna be subject to this don't wanna do it anyways, but anyways.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that. It's worth looking into. I think 500,000 is 8 Tahoes, not one Tahoe, but, oh. Go ahead, Larry.
I guess some observations about it is that the APRS program, I think, terminates when you pass away. So you don't have any money in the bank, is that correct? In other words, if you retire after 20 years and you live for 2 years after that, you only get 2 years of retirement, is that right?
It would work like lofty in that if you had, are you saying they retired and passed away?
No, they retired. They retired with some years of service, and so by APRS, that entitled them to a certain payment because it's years of service and wages.
So what would happen is that individual, when they retire, makes an election. They elect how much, what percentage of their regular monthly income they want, which would include a survivor benefit if they chose to, or not having a survivor benefit if they chose to.
And if they choose a survivor benefit, it gets reduced significantly.
There-
Personal experience.
Typically, there's going to be a lot of different choices
Yeah.
as to how you
Right.
want to take that money.
But years of service is critical, your wage rate is critical, and then how you choose to retire, whether you want a guaranteed benefit to a survivor or not. And the impact really is substantial, based on what my experience has been from Wisconsin. I only worked for the municipal government for a short time directly. And so my retirement benefit from the state is very small, okay? And I would have had probably a better retirement had I paid into a system and earned it, because I could have taken that all with me, added it to another account, so. So there's some pluses and minuses about that program.
Yeah, if you're gonna job hop, it might not be good for you, but if you're gonna come work for the city of Bella Vista and stay here for 20 years, it's phenomenal.
Yeah, and I, we can argue that we really lose some good employees. I don't know that if you look at the employees that Bella Vista has, that you can say that that's true, because we have quality employees, whether they're the rank and file law fee uniformed or whether they're not. And so.
Well, if we have good employees, we should reward them with this benefit.
Well, and we do with the incentive of $2 for every dollar you put in, so you get to take home 15% a year.
Well, before we get into all the hypotheticals, we're just trying to figure out if we just want to even pursue a study, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
Perfect. Can we put that on consent?
Pardon me?
I asked if we could put that on consent. In the spirit of how it's presented, I agree, you know, not to get a whole thing started, but I mean, that 6% for somebody, it just depends on what their pay rate is. That 6% might really hit them hard. You know, you're talking about hourly employees and stuff like that. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot to consider. I think it's a good idea. I think it's worth the conversation. So, but I was just asking if we could put it on consent.
Okay. People think we should put it on consent?
Yes.
I'm sure Travis does.
I'm not sure. I think we should,
Okay.
think we need to vote on that individually. We
Okay.
may all have different opinions by next week.
Okay, yeah. Okay, good conversation. Let's go to Q, resolution referring to the Planning Commission for public hearing and recommendation, a zoning code change to permit newly constructed electrical meters in the front of a residence if the residence is more than 50 feet from the street right-of-way. Travis, this was yours?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. So basically, this is just a small amendment to the code reform that's been happening. As Director Robinson mentioned, this is a living, breathing document. We anticipate making changes. This would just make the front plane electric meter different for a house that's more than 50 feet from the front of the road. And I spoke to a couple of people on the Planning Commission that seemed agreeable to it. I know we have a couple planners in here tonight. But anyways, so this would just send that to them for consideration, for them to vote on and send a recommendation to us.
Okay, what's the rationale for the 50 feet?
Because there's several houses that are way farther than 50 feet. And so it's harder for them to put an electric meter beyond the front plane of their house. You could take the zoning adjustment house that we just got, for example. I didn't look at where the road was, but, you know, they have 4 acres. If the house is on the back of their 4 acres, you know, they needed to put a new electric meter in, and you could imagine the cost that it would be to put it beyond the front plane of a house for someone like that. Not a ton of properties here in Bella Vista that would meet that, but there are several. And this is not like a Rogers or a Bentonville neighborhood where everything's perfectly parceled out in a square lot, and it's the same for, you know, hundreds of houses. So,
No, it's expense because of the extra distance.
yes.
Yeah. Wendy?
Does staff have any thoughts? Or not, it's okay if you don't.
Yeah, I guess I've already shared it with him, but the only initial concern I had immediately was that our zoning code has a hate-free front yard requirement in line with our comprehensive plan that we have to basically preserve the aesthetic, the natural appearance of Bella Vista. So anything taller than 40 inches cannot be in the front yard, so if we change this section of code, we'd also have to change that. So this wouldn't just be a one code change, this would affect other areas of code, just something to be aware of.
Well, I have a question. Do they have to trench? I mean, regardless if it's, can they run the power back to the property via pole, or do they have to trench it back to the house? I mean, I don't understand. I guess I'm struggling with where the extra expense is, because either way, there's gonna have to be a meter, and I know you're not presenting this, I'm just speaking broadly. But either way, you're gonna have a meter, and either way, the wire's either gonna go up in the air or in the ground, right? So, I mean, placement of the box, and to what your point is that if the box is taller than, then we're gonna have to amend or change other sections of the code to accommodate.
I can't give you like an exact amount,
No,
whether it's
I'm
more
just- I'm-
expensive, but I mean, it's, it's gotta go somewhere, a line's gotta connect something at
Well,
some
I
point
mean,
regardless of where the
I'm-
pedestal
I'm
is.
just saying it to say it out loud,
Yeah.
and I just want to make sure that I'm not putting too much into it. Okay.
Which, you know, planning, you know, we try to keep costs, you know, especially in terms of like housing affordability, but a lot of the decisions that the boards that I work with make actually can't really consider, costs. So like
Oh, I
that's not
understand.
something, yeah. Like the BZA couldn't consider costs for the discussion
Right.
that he was talking about.
So my impression from attending planning commission meetings is Daniel Ellis is quite concerned about the fact, once the power company puts the meter in, then that line, the rest of the way it's run, you can't call 1-800-DIG and see where the line is. So it's a safety thing that somebody could electrocute themselves.
Yeah.
So if the house is more than 50 feet, you've got a really long line where somebody could electrocute themselves. So
So
it's even
safe.
more unsafe.
Public safety issue.
I wanted to just, you know, I'm only going to speak up when there's a legal issue, and the legal issue I'm concerned with is that this would undercut, if you did this, it would undercut the legal rationale for any restriction. Because we had the restriction for safety measures, having it in the front related to site distances, the issue the mayor just mentioned, and neither of those are, just because the house is more than 40 feet back, those other issues still exist. So I'm a little concerned that that would undercut the rationale for it and just basically leaving it being an aesthetic choice, and which is going to be a problematic rationale. So I just want to, I'm not saying you can't, I just want to say that that issue is there legally, potentially.
So I have a question. How are
Get you.
mailboxes, trees, shrubberies, electric poles, light poles, how are those allowed in the front plane of the property? Because those are more than 40 inches tall.
When landscaping is not a structure or a man-made development,
Mailboxes are governed by federal
and
regulation.
yeah, we have to abide by requirements that are outside of our control, to a degree with mailboxes, but we can control how close they are to the edge of the street and things like that. But, that's about the extent of where we go with the mailboxes. But essentially, and I do want to, if this is a time too, I do want to talk about the process. This is our first one that this council's actually done under the new code with, a planning commission direction. But essentially, and it ties to what I'm about to say, is as our new code, if you're going to change the zoning or development code, specifically the zoning code, it needs to be tied to the comprehensive plan. So that'll be something else that needs to be prepared as well for this. Because in our local code, I think it even says the words, it shall not be considered unless it's aligned with the comprehensive 2040 plan, amendments to the zoning text. So, and that was the intent, is keeping, like I said, that was one of the intents, is keeping it free. I know the safety, I know Daniel Ellis has mentioned time and again, putting the expectation and responsibility back on the utility rather than our residents of having it attached ultimately to the house, so that way they're responsible all the way, to the house, for safety measures as well as digging and things like that, which of course, also as noted, you can hire a private company to come out and identify if 811 won't do it. So there is a back answer to that, but again, it goes back to putting the responsibility back on the utility owner, such as Carroll Electric in this instance, but, keeping it free and clear, side distance, most of our lots are back out, which of course, if it's a longer driveway, that's not as much of a concern. Keeping it free and clear, closer to the road would be more concerned with that, but just, my overall concern is just making sure it is in line with the intent of the comprehensive plan, and so just having a response prepared for that, by the time we take it to planning commission would be really my only, and what I mentioned earlier is making sure it doesn't conflict with other sections of code. Comment on that, I guess.
Shay?
I'm good, thank you.
Oh, Wendy? Oh, okay, she hasn't answered, okay. Larry?
I can't support the proposal only from the standpoint of public safety. By placing the meter back where it is supposed to be in our code makes the utility liable for the maintenance and repair of that all the way to the meter. Right?
Say that again?
Where the meter is set, they're responsible for maintenance of the line serving that meter.
To the meter.
To the meter.
Utility
So if you put the meter in
companies-
front of the house, they're responsible all the way for that distance So the homeowner is not liable for it. Not only that, but if you get a locate, it's gonna locate that because that's a part of their system.
Yeah, they
It's a
up to
public
the
safety
meter.
issue in the end, and it really, in the long term, it's safer for that property owner or a future property owner to have it the way we have it in our code.
Closer to the house, if not attached to the house, reduces that liability.
Exactly
What
right.
about LP lines, propane lines? Those are also running underneath, right?
We actually don't oversee propane. Staff can't, we can't get involved with propane.
But you wouldn't put your propane tank out 20 feet from the road and run the line all the way back to your house. I mean,
Yeah, they run the line to their house from the propane tank.
well, I know they do, but you wouldn't do that normally. I mean, why would you want a big tank in front of your house?
For those that
Aesthetically.
want to know,
Well, what I'm
there's a whole liquid propane tank gas code. So that regulates placement of tank
That's true,
related to things like,
yeah.
there are a lot of rules for.
All I was saying is there's dangers out there, just if it's not an electric line, it's something that could blow you up. So there's,
But it's a
anyways,
property owner cost issue, one way or the other, and the long-term benefit is that the electric company is responsible all the way up to the meter to feed it and provide electricity for its perpetuity. As long as there's somebody living there and that meter is there, they're responsible for that line. And so if you change the location, that makes the homeowner responsible for all of that line. And it also doesn't get located then. So I don't see it as a win-win.
Okay, we'll take that up next week. The next one is our resolution amending the 2026 city budget to appropriate an additional $37,386.13 to fund necessary repairs to fire department capital equipment. Fire Chief Sims.
Any questions?
Is
Fire
that the
truck's
fire
very-
truck that we're putting a new engine in?
No,
No.
but the reason why we was using that fire truck, because that fire truck was getting a new engine put in it, second engine. So,
No.
so
what-
good
what-
thing, the
where-
good
where's
thing
this
about it
gonna go?
is, the good thing about it is this truck, it happened, the breakdown happened on a training site, but that truck was in service at the time. It's a 17-year-old fire truck. Folks, haven't had a whole lot of issues with it until now, but I didn't expect to spend almost $38,000 on a repair. That's why we're amending the budget.
So this was a ladder truck, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, the older ladder truck.
It's the only fire truck I have, well, fire truck, not rescue truck, that's not on DEF. Have the DEF fluid in it, so. Which we try to keep it around as long as we can, folks. But yeah, that's, unfortunately, that happened. It did happen on a training, it was in service at the time of the training that was going on, and it happened at the training tower, so. Which I'm thankful about that. I'm glad it didn't happen on fire scene.
is it an engine problem or a pump problem?
It was a ladder. So the ladder operator that operates the ladder up and down and turns the turntable, the pinion inside that gearbox area broke, and it jammed everything up. So that's what we had to fix.
So is that operate off the engine transmission then?
It operates off the hydraulic off the engine, yes.
Okay, so this is,
So the engine was running, the hydraulic system runs off of that, which causes the ladder to rotate and go up and down.
so, yeah, I understand that.
This is a different vehicle.
So
Yeah,
this is
totally
the,
different.
this is the transmission on the truck, on the fire truck.
No, this is a ladder.
It's
The rotation hydraulic system that works the ladder, to rotate it up and down.
That's the transmission that we repair?
It broke the shaft in the box, which
Okay.
causes it to lock up. That's
Okay.
correct. The hydraulic system, basically.
So that's the transmission.
No, not the transmission.
It's like a turret, a turret,
Yeah,
turning system. It's not a
Yeah, the
transmission.
turntable.
it's not,
Oh, the
okay.
turntable, it's a
I
big
Alright.
gear that turns.
I don't know, I
Well,
got the
there's-
idea that it was a
There's
transmission.
a hydraulic system that works that,
Okay,
and it does run off the engine. Engine's gotta be on for it to work.
yeah. But it's,
And then that box that causes that to rotate, the shaft inside of it broke. And then it caused it to, when it broke, it jammed everything up and then it broke
Yeah.
the box.
I don't know why I had the idea it was a transmission.
I don't know. So
I'm good with this going on the consent agenda.
That, so you know, the repairs have already done and the truck's back in service, so. And we did get the truck back with the engine problem for the second time. So,
But this is amending the budget because it was, the expenses were more than he was
Right.
anticipating.
Yeah.
exactly. I do have some funding in my capital that covers expenses like this, but not this, to this extent, this amount. So,
Especially this early in the year.
what was that?
He said, especially this early in the year, yeah.
Oh, exactly,
Good
yeah, because
point.
you're looking at April and already spending almost $40,000 on a truck, so.
Okay, thank you. The next, so I have that on consent agenda. You guys can let me know if you change your mind. Next one is discussion items, wayfinding signs and traffic signals. Planning Director Robertson.
And we'll try to keep this brief. So essentially, this is just an open discussion item this month to kind of pick your brains, test your temperature on these two items. One of them is more so safety related, so it's more of a heads up that I will be doing this, but due to material delay with almost everything right now, I had to use this year's budget to cover last year's projects for wayfinding signs and traffic signals. Traffic signals specifically, I like to have those in the budget ready to go in case something happens. Obviously, those are timely matters that need addressed with. If a light or a cabinet needs replaced or the detection wiring goes out, the sooner I can get those addressed, the better. And so that one is one that I would really like to come back to you guys next month for a budget amendment to replace the $35,000 that I had to spend this year on last year's project due to our detection wiring delivery got delayed by several months. And so it actually didn't get delivered till February and didn't get installed till March. And then, of course, I got the bill this month. The other item is more of a temperature check on wayfinding signs. So we entered into agreement last year with the POA to replace 9 signs. We split it half for, between the two entities. And of course, due to material delay, the signs did not get finished until early this year. And so this year's budget is going to pay for last year's project because it didn't get done. Really didn't even start until January. Some of them started in December, I think, late in November, but the majority of them were January and February. So that one is where I'm really wanting to do a temperature check. If the city council is interested in continuing to fund those, to do a budget amendment or waiting till next year. We try to throw around 40,000 every year to replace about 3 or 4. They're 10 to 12,000 a piece typically, depending on what all needs replaced. If the feet or the footings need replaced, or if it's just the sign and the legs, it's a little cheaper. But before I requested budget amendments on those, I wanted to have an open discussion item with you guys. Any comments or? Yeah.
So how much do you think for the signs?
So it'll be around 35, so, I would lose the majority of this year's budget on last year's project. I had 40 for this year, 35, around 35 will be budget, spent on 2025's signs.
So the traffic signals is 35 and the signs are 35? So it's 70 total?
That is spent, yeah.
What,
Shay?
When you say wayfinding signs, are those maybe the navy and red signs that are?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, they're the giant blue signs everywhere. It has Bella Vista at the top, it's like a wave,
Yeah.
and then it has like Town Center, Tanyard Creek, our major library. This place, it'll have the major attractions and focal points on those.
And you said generally we try to replace those, because I mean, I'm not trying to bash anyone or anything, but generally I think a lot of them look kind of terrible and some of them have fallen down entirely, right? So were they maybe in a state of disrepair for a while before?
Well, the ones that I did last year had been like that probably for 2 to 3 years. They don't last as long as you would think. But this year, the contractor that the POA used, since they're the one that handled the actual project, we reimbursed them, used different paint, used different materials, and so these should last longer than the original install that we had, is what we were told, so.
Anna?
So I've seen some of the new ones that went up, and I think it's really important that we do keep these updated and maintained, because aesthetically for our city, I mean, it really tells anyone that's passing through, anyone that lives here, kind of the quality of everything. I think it's a mindset. So some of the new ones that went up, I feel like I've seen some that are still lying on the ground that have been replaced, right? Like when you're driving along 71, across from like Dairy Queen, where we've got some of the wayfinding ones. Are there still some that are on the ground that need to be removed? And is that our responsibility or the POA's responsibility?
It would be the contractor that is hired to do that. They remove the old ones, take them out, and replace them with the new ones.
Okay.
But yeah, if there's still some.
If I see any, I'll send them to you.
Yeah, send those to me.
And then, but my point is, I do think it's really important that we continue to replace these as often as possible to keep the aesthetic of our city looking clean and fresh and great.
Travis?
Yeah, I guess my only initial hesitation to and I support trails and all things that come with trails. It's obviously, people love to come here for our nature, and I'm certainly an advocate of that. My only kind of knee-jerk reaction to this is the POA's budget's much larger than ours, and they don't have to fund a planning department. They don't have to fund the fire department, a police department, a street department. They're all recreation, so why can't they afford this on their own?
These signs are actually our responsibility.
They are?
Yeah,
Okay.
and they're actually just being a partner and offering, well, one, they're kind of, is what she's saying, just, they don't want eyesores in Bella Vista. So they came forward and actually proposed to
The street, are you talking about the street crossing ones or the wayfinding ones?
the giant blue 12-foot
The
tall
wayfinding,
wayfinding
yeah.
signs.
Wayfinding signs.
Okay.
And sometimes they mention POA things, don't they?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
So-
Yeah, like
but
Tanyard Creek's
There you
got some.
What happened historically is Walton Foundation wanted all Northwest Arkansas to be uniform, and they very generously gave us all these signs,
Right.
but then they said, you have to keep them up.
Yeah.
And among other things, that because they're so gigantic, they catch a lot of wind, and cars run them over, and the sun bleaches them, and so, and one of the interesting things happened today. Taylor and I were at a regional meeting, and a lady from I've never had anybody do this before. A lady from California said she'd come to, I think, Tanyard Creek, thought it was great, and said, man, those wayfinding signs really helped me. That's the first time I'd ever heard that.
Oh, yeah.
So,
So will the budget from last year take care of all of the wayfinding signs that we need to upgrade or
No.
repair?
No,
So we
those,
got some
that
more
only
this
took
year.
care of the 9 that we prioritized. There were others that we identified as in disrepair or starting to flake and whatnot. But between the two budgets, we could only afford those 9.
So the POA is on board with sharing half that cost with us?
No, not for this year.
And-
They've not offered to do that this year. That was only for last year due to the amount. There was a high amount of them that were falling apart.
So do we want, if we have their stuff on it, if their facilities are listed on the signs we're going to do work on, I would say we should then bill them for it as a proportion.
Well, I mean, the signs also point to other facilities that are not POA owned, just like in other cities. It's not
Right.
just.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not,
It's different
but
things,
there's
yeah.
both collected on there, so if they're not offering to share in that cost, then I would bill them a proportional share of how many their facilities are of the cost of the projects listed.
yeah, so.
Yeah.
So are you,
Either that or leave it
I know
off.
you're asking kind of in general, but are you proposing that to amend this year's budget by $70,000? Is that,
Give or take,
Yeah.
basically take the money that I couldn't spend last year and put it back into this year's fund so I could continue working on the ones for 2026. For both traffic lights and wayfinding. Which again, prioritizing the traffic signal budget specifically.
yeah, the traffic is is that mostly TEC?
No, so traffic engineering consultant is the engineer that does the timing studies. So that's paid out of our operations budget. That's a reoccurring thing.
Oh, okay.
TLS is our on the ground, boots on the ground technicians that go out there anytime that a light is stuck on yellow or stuck on red. And then we have another company that manages it from a cloud that watches the stoplight timing as well, 24/7. So,
I understand residents get excited when traffic signals aren't working properly.
with that said, our timing study for 2026 has recently gone into effect as of this week and last week. So if you guys start getting emails, that's why, because it's now in the test period. And so as it's being applied, our TEC, or traffic engineer, is out there watching physically and making adjustments as needed. That typically takes about 2 weeks. So if you get emails this week or next, that's probably why.
So we need to add a item to our agenda next week.
I was gonna do it next month, but if you guys are amenable to that, or if the mayor's amenable to that being on the,
I would ask we do it next month
Yeah,
to,
that's-
just as part of the normal course. It's not an
Okay.
emergency, so.
That's fine.
I think she's just trying to warm you up to the idea.
Anna?
I was just gonna say I'm warm, so yes.
Thank you. Okay, we have one more discussion item, short-term rentals, and I included in your packet just a little bit of a calculation. A lot of people weren't around then, so they may not be aware. When we made our short-term rental ordinance, and we said 600, where that number came from is it was 4% of 15,000. We figured we had 15,000 residences, so 4% is 600. And there even was some discussion at the time of, well, maybe we should have it change automatically. And we thought, no, that would be too cumbersome and too hard to do. And, because it's going to be changing constantly. So the numbers I have here are the numbers from Taylor Roberts, and we got as best as possible how many residences there are. We have all the ones on POA water. There's a few on Centerton water. And then we have a pretty good estimate of the wells. So if you took 17,192, multiplied by 4%, you got 687. So the reason I put this on a discussion item, I just kind of wanted to see how people felt about it. I mean, we could amend it and make the total 687 instead of 600. We could leave it how it is. We could have a little subcommittee and do a study of residents' attitudes and feelings about this vary, as you know. Travis?
Do you know how many permits are currently spoken for?
The latest number I got, I believe it was 591 last Friday, Taylor. Does that sound right? It really started to go up and 581, okay. It started to go up lately, and people are wondering about the effect of the bike park, among other things.
Of 600
Yeah,
right now? Okay.
yeah. Shay?
Forgive my ignorance, but if, let's say I have a short-term rental and it's permitted, and then I put that house up for sale, would the new owner be grandfathered in, or, okay, so they would have to? Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
thank you. There's even a word for that, okay, great. Okay, yeah, my fear would be that if we really let this number get out of balance, that we just risk non-compliance in our program, which I think would be a difficulty. So I'm generally supportive of the idea of keeping it at maybe a certain percentage of the homes in the area.
Travis?
Just while we're on the topic, I know we've been here a while, but I wouldn't mind seeing a way that somebody could sell their short-term rental, somebody that's looking to invest in a short-term rental and them get a license with it. That might prevent some of this cap from needing to change if they could buy an existing short-term rental, knowing that they can actually have a short-term rental. But that's my personal opinion.
Well, Taylor tells me that she feels there's already people sitting on these licenses and not using them. And I think if you could sell them to the next person, there'd really be a lot of sitting on them. I mean, people might run out and get one just for the heck of it, thinking, oh, it might make my house more valuable maybe when I sell it. Yeah. So, but I appreciate the thought. Anybody else? Craig?
The only thing I think, or I would consider, I feel like if it would be like an annual adjustment, you'd almost be poking the bear every single year that you'd have, I wouldn't say an outpouring, but I think there was enough, tax-paying people living here that were fully engaged on either side of the argument. And, you know, I mean, if we had a 3-year review or, you know, just some cycle that's predictable, that you could either say on the website or whatever that we're making adjustments or something. But I just think if we just kind of drop a bomb in the middle of the year every year, if there's no calculable or predictable adjustment, we just need to set that to where I guess we could do it annually, but I mean, we just need to let people know when that adjustment's gonna happen, when that's gonna be looked at. And, you know, I mean, just kind of structure it in a way that it doesn't seem like, well, I thought we just added 70 more last 2 months ago. You know, I mean, those kind of conversations, because I think that would be kind of the thing that would come out of it, so.
Well, wasn't it Fayetteville that was thinking of reducing the number that they had? I think they were discussing it. I don't know if they actually implemented it.
They had a much lower number. They had about 480, and I believe they've hit it, and they've had some litigation since then. I don't know if, Jason, you have any
Last I
updates on-
heard, there was, the state litigation had been dealt with, and then there was a federal litigation, which has also been resolved in favor of the city. But that's, I don't know if they have anything else. I don't think they do, but I think that.
But didn't the Supreme Court remand it back to the lower court to tell them to finish?
I don't know.
'Cause that's-
You may know more about that than I do right now. I think it was remanded, but I don't really know for what, I don't know. I can't remember everything. I just don't, it's late.
From what I
I'm
remember,
sorry.
they went to the Supreme Court said, yeah, this is likely unconstitutional, but they remanded it back to the lower court to finish because they never actually finished the process in the lower courts. That's what I read, if not an attorney. But
I don't agree with that. I don't think they said it was likely unconstitutional. I don't think the court said that, but.
I do remember them remanding, yeah.
I guess I
It said
can't get
that.
excited about increasing the number for two reasons. One, it could be cutting into any possibilities of us getting a hotel, because it would cut into their opportunity by opening the door for expansion of the short-term rentals. 600 is more than I think our neighbors have around the northwest Arkansas area, I believe, cap-wise, so I'm comfortable. We've had a lot of issues with the short-term rentals in terms of noise and all sorts of things, so.
Anna?
I think it's important that we do continue to consider the growth and that we have fair opportunities for business and for homeowners. I don't know what the right number is, and I don't know what the right time frame is, but I don't want to shut down the idea of expanding the number of short-term rentals, because my issue is if we have short-term rental licenses out there and they are not utilizing them. So I would be more in favor of a minimum rental, considering a minimum night rental rule, so that those that have the license are actually utilizing it. Because if they're holding on to them and not utilizing it, it's not fair to those that, you know, could be participating.
Wendy?
So, yeah, absolutely agree that we should evaluate this. And with Craig's comment about making like, hey, every 3 years or every few years, checking on it. I don't know if annually is maybe the best idea, but having it at a period. Larry's comment about a possible hotel and maybe limiting us, it's capitalism. So I think a hotel is gonna come in if it's gonna come in, and if that shakes up how STRs function, that's a risk for those owners. They have opportunities to change it over. There's gonna be people who, like, our family purely stays in short-term rentals when we travel. That's best for our family, a family of 5. It's way cheaper for me to rent a house than it is to rent 2 or 3 hotel rooms. I got a lot of teenagers and a kid who plays tuba and likes to bring it with them. And so it'll all shake out, I think, be fine.
Police Chief Graves, I think, had a short report he was going to give just on what we've seen and
So
the enforcement side.
So as you folks were thinking about this, I just went back, because I knew this was going to be on the agenda, and I talked to the mayor, and I just went back a year from March. So think of March 2025 to March 2026. and try to pull all of, because I know it's always was, when this topic first came up, everybody's worried about the parties and the crime and this, and the impact on the community. And really, we haven't seen what I think was predicted. I look at the calls for service to short-term rentals across the entire city, so that's 581 we said, I believe. And we've had 7 calls related to short-term rental activity, 7 calls. And so those range from about 2 disturbances, which were just people not getting along with each other kind of thing. I think it was 3 ordinance violations, 3 ordinance violations, which were like loud parties, loud music, okay. We had a couple parking violations, which were just what they are, a lot of cars parked. One of those actually was called in by the short-term rental owner. She said, hey, I got people there and they lied to me and they have all this stuff going on. So she actually called us, so that was kind of nice. And then a suspicious activity, which is just what it was, just somebody said, hey, it's kind of weird, a bunch of cars parked out here, what's going on? And so we went out and investigated. So I don't think based on a year and all the short-term rentals, it's really, and what's interesting too is none of those occurred at the same addresses. And so, you know, we always had people come up talking about this problem home, and we've dealt with problem homes. And so I think what we're experiencing here, at least anecdotally when I look at this, is that, you know, issues come up, we deal with them, and then we always end up dealing with the owners, and I think the owners are taking care of the problem. So I don't see a giant problem. I hate saying that because people might be listening going, oh my gosh, I got a problem in my neighborhood, but we're not getting those reports, okay? I don't see a giant problem, I don't think it's unreasonable to just, there's a percentage of short-term rentals you want based on population, that just increases with population. I don't see a big problem from my perspective.
Shay?
So that was 7 calls over 12 months?
Yes.
Okay, thank
That was
you.
a 12-month period.
I'm surprised it's such a small amount.
Well, me too. I mean, there were other calls, but when there was no easy way to do it. We had to almost go through every call to see what was the call about. And some were just, my garden hose got stolen or something. They weren't related to short-term rental activity. They're related to just like any other call that would come from a residence in Bella Vista. Okay?
Any more questions? So, anyway, I just wanted to bring it up. There's something we could think about and put on in May if you think it would be prudent, or. Shay?
Is it possible, or, and I guess this is for Mr. Kelly, but would it make sense to just write it in a way that is a certain percentage of the homes, or do we need to always name a specific number?
You can do it either way.
Okay.
You just need to have an objective way to make sure you come up with the calculation so that we know that when we apply that formula, we get a number.
Right.
And so how you come up with the total number of houses, how do we know how many total we have?
Right.
Is that based on meters? Is it based on, historical data? We'll have to find a solid, here's a calculation. We've just got to make sure that that's data we have a right to get and we can use into the future and make use of moving on forward to compare.
Okay, so we could define a way in which we count number of households, and then we could just say 4% of that, and then we wouldn't have to revisit it necessarily.
You could set a number and say that the council will revisit it every 3 years, or you could say that you basically don't have a limit in how you want to structure it, as long as it's not arbitrary in how you determine the number. As long as you've got a good, reasonable reason, objective reason, then you could do that.
Okay, I think that's pretty much everything unless somebody has something else. We'll adjourn and see you next week at 6 p.m.